Welcome back, everybody, to the Right Way Sports Network. I'm your host, Daniel Joseph Alameda, and today we are breaking down the Denver Broncos offseason. So let's get right into it. The Denver Broncos have everything lined up for a major improvement in 2020. They have a second-year promising quarterback in Drew Lock, and they just surrounded him with a ton of talent in the weapons department. They have a top 10 defense that really came on strong in the second half of last year, and they have a second-year head coach, defensive guru, Vic Fangio. Let's start it off with the major change that took place this offseason. The Broncos fired their offense coordinator, Rich Scangarello, and hired Pat Shurmur. So here's what you can expect from this change. Scangarello's biggest issue was his improper use of spacing, but luckily enough, that's exactly what Shurmur excels at. You can expect a lot more 3 receiver sets, which allows for the talent at receiver to really shine. Shurmur's really going to emphasize the downfield passing attack, as you're going to have a lot more explosive plays and you're really going to rely on the talent at receiver. Pat Shurmur has also worked with a ton of quarterbacks, such as Eli Manning, Sam Bradford, and Case Keenum, so he'll be a huge help to Drew Lock. Drew Lock only played in 4 games last year, and I know the stat sheet was not impressive, but sorry guys, he is still the Broncos franchise quarterback. There are so many quote-unquote NFL fans that try telling me that I cannot predict a second-year quarterback to succeed because they are too young, because they are too inexperienced, blah, 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 but that is completely wrong. There is almost 0 quarterbacks in the NFL that can succeed without talent around him. So that is exactly why the Broncos went out and they surrounded him with a ton of talent. Right now, they're deploying a running back duo that is arguably one of the best in the NFL. Philip Lindsay is going to get around 40% of the touches because he fits the zone running scheme that Pat Shurmur runs. They also added Melvin Gordon from the San Diego Chargers, who really excels in that same exact scheme. Both of these guys are zone runners, and they can also be very productive out of the backfield. Their receiving core, man, it's nice. It's very nice. Their ex-receiver, who is their big-body receiver on the boundary, is Courtland Sutton. They added Jerry Jeudy in the draft, and he was arguably the best route runner in the 2019 draft. And not only did they stop there, they also added KJ Hamlin. KJ Hamler is an extremely quick and shifty receiver, and he will be playing specifically from the slot. This upcoming season, you're going to see a major change in the Broncos tight end position. Last year, they ran a ton of 2 tight end sets because that was the type of offense that their offense coordinator ran. But this year, with Pat Shurmur at the helm, you're going to see a ton of that spread scheme. The tight ends lining up out wide and not lining up at the end of the line of scrimmage. But in reality, this is a blessing in disguise for the Broncos tight end position. They have 2 very talented tight ends in Noah Fant and Albert O. But the reality is, both of these guys are athletic freaks that are great receiving targets, but not good blockers. So as we said before, Pat Shurmur's spread scheme will really fit their tight ends' talents well because they will not have to block as much as before. Their offensive line, it's a solid group, right? They drafted Lloyd Cushenberry from LSU as a center position, and he pushes Graham Glasgow to the right guard position, which is his natural position. But other than those 2, they returned their other 3 starters. Last year, the final 4 games of the season, they gave up a measly 5 sacks. So if they can keep that consistency that they had at the final 4 games of last year, it'll save Drew Lock from a ton of trouble. For some odd reason, I'm way more excited about the Broncos' defense than their offense, and that should really tell you a lot. Their head coach, Vic Fangio, is one of the greatest defensive minds in the game of football. His resume consists of leading the Chicago Bears to back-to-back top 3 defensive seasons. Last year, at the beginning of the year, the Broncos defense was hyped up to be top 10. They were hyped up to be exciting. They were hyped up to be this and that, but then they failed early in the year. The first 3 weeks of the season, they had 0 turnovers and 0 sacks. So at the beginning of the year, it looked like this Broncos team was going to be a failed project, but then they turned it around. At the end of the year, they ranked 11th against the pass, 16th against the run, and 10th overall. Let's break down their defense step by step. First off, their front seven. Von Miller is the star of this defense, hands down, and he's been one of the league's best edge rushers since he entered the league in 2011. The reality about Von Miller is he has not slowed down one bit, but people like looking at what he did last year as a down year, but this is completely false. Last year, yes, the numbers do not lie, he had a down year. 8 sacks, 20 quarterback hits, but a lot of that is a tribute to one specific thing. He was missing his partner in crime, Bradley Chubb, and this cannot be understated. Bradley Chubb tore his ACL at the beginning of the year, and this had a major impact on the success of their defense. In Bradley Chubb's rookie season, he recorded 12 sacks. 12 sacks in his rookie season, and he was primed for a monster year in 2019, but he tore his ACL. So this season, he will have a very, very much anticipated return, and Von Miller should thrive on the opposite side of him. In the interior, they have the ever-consistent Shelby Harris, and they added Jurrell Casey. Jurrell Casey was one of my favorite pickups of the entire free agent period for any team. Jurrell Casey has been an absolute force for the Titans for his entire career, and even though he's 30 years old and showing some signs of regression, he will still be very effective, and the bonus is they gave away a 6th round pick for him. If there is one positional group to be a little bit concerned about, it would be their linebacking group. Besides their 2 starters, they have a lot of unproven talent in this positional group. They have a run stopper in Todd Davis and a guy who broke out last year in Alexander Johnson, but besides them, it's a lot of unproven guys. There is one name I need you guys to look out for, Justin Sharnat. From the film I watched from Justin Sharnat, I saw a lot of pass coverage skills that this linebacking group lacks. While there are many that view the Broncos secondary as a weakness, I actually think it could be their strength. They have AJ Bouye, who they acquired from the Jaguars, and he's their boundary corner on one side. And on the other side, you have Michael O.J. Moutier. O.J. Moutier is one of my favorite prospects from the 2019 draft. To put it simply, he is a lengthy and fluid corner. In the slot, they have Bryce Callahan, and he arguably is one of the best slot cornerbacks in the game. Their safety duo, man, it is definitely one of the best in the league. Everyone knows Justin Simmons. This offseason, he got the franchise tag, and last year, he was one of the league's best safeties. He had 15 pass deflections and 4 interceptions, so expect him to have a little bit more improvement from what he did last year. But the funny thing is, whereas a ton of people love Justin Simmons, I actually think Kareem Jackson is the one to get excited about. Last year, he dealt with a hamstring injury all year, and he was suspended at the end of the season. But what he brings to this defense is he brings that big personality. He brings that big hitter. He brings that hammer in the back end, and he's the one who gets their defense fired up. All in all, the Denver Broncos are the team I'm most excited about for 2020. Last year was full of firsts for the Broncos. First-year head coach, first-year quarterback, and first-year talent on defense. Now, they have firepower on offense, a top 10 defense, and a veteran coaching staff. The biggest turnoff about the Broncos is the difficult division they play in, because they have the much-improved Chargers, they have the Las Vegas Raiders, and they have the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. If I had to make a prediction right here, right now, I would predict that the Broncos go 10-6 and make the playoffs as a wild card team. That'll do it for the Denver Broncos offseason breakdown. Thank you guys very much. Make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe for more. You guys can support us on Instagram and on Twitter at TWSN_, and we will see you guys next time on the Right Way Sports Network.